If you're a BC autism parent, you've probably heard the new news from the government about AFU closing. In this episode, we're going to walk you through why it's incredibly crucially important that you jump on it now, because if you wait till 2027, you're going to miss out. Let's go through the 3 programs and which one your family is eligible for as the government replaces our AFU program. So I'm Steph from Awesome Match. I'm here with my co-host Angela, and we are just here to chit chat about how parents are feeling about the programs, but not just so much the feelings, just really being able to educate ourselves on what programs that we are eligible for. So we help serve a couple hundred families, and we're already getting phone calls and walk-ins from parents who are really confused on what this means for their families.
Lots and lots of questions about what's happening, what's going to affect them, and what they can do now if they can do anything.
And we want to preface this with, it's currently February 2026 that we are filming this. And I do believe the government did the best that they could in releasing the information that they have available to them. As someone in this industry, I also can understand and emphasize with how hard it would be to give solid answers on, like, what would wait times be? What?
Yeah.
So I just want to preface before we get into these programs, we are not here to say if we agree or disagree on these programs.
Yeah.
We are here to preface it with, we hope in a perfect world, in my opinion, if I can, without being agreeing or disagreeing, it should be and the children with Down syndrome, FASD, and all of these other diagnosis or non-diagnosis, any needs needed should be included and should have gotten funding all along. We're not here to say that autism funding should close. In a perfect world, it stays open and allows for all those kids that not yet have a diagnosis or have a different diagnosis. So it's going to be a little bit of a good chit chat for us, because we're just here to navigate you as best as we can with the realistic facts we have right now. There has been 3 town halls with the government.
Yeah.
And those town halls look like just Zooms where parents were encouraged and invited to jump on the Zooms for 1 hour. And Emily walked us through any news that the government has and tried to dissect these 3 programs. So if you were part of that town hall, some of this might feel a little redundant for you, but we're hoping through dynamic conversation it lands a bit better for you. Yeah.
Yeah, those were interesting, those town halls. A lot of people had a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
There was, as much as you could, use emojis to convey your emotions.
I mean, I've never seen quite a heightened reaction to the name, to just a name. Everyone's just using Ollie all over the place.
Yeah.
If you've been part of the PDFs in the town halls, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, I encourage you to look it up. Angela and I are both parents of an Ollie. And so what that means for us is the same as what you will find. In summary, Ollie is just a child who is what the government would consider a low supports needed child. In our opinion, as families, our children are their hard is just as hard as any other hard. It's a mental health kind of hard.
Yeah, it's a different type of support that's needed.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it any less.
Yeah.
It's just a different type of support. And that's where majority of autistic kids fall in the Ollie category.
And what you'll find for someone similar to Angela and I who have the Ollies is we're going to qualify for 2 of the programs out of 3. Not 3 out of 3, 2 out of 3. We're going to qualify for number 2 and number 3. We'll get into that in a bit. But that's why we're here. Let's just slow things down. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about each program in detail. Program 1 is the benefits. About 30% of kiddos will qualify for that. The second is the supplement. About 85% of kiddos will qualify for that. And then the community centers, which we are saying 100% of the kiddos qualify for that. So when I say kiddos, I'm saying any child with any needs qualifies under any 3 of these programs. However, for the purposes of this podcast, we are autism professionals. We specialize in autism, and we historically work with autism funding. So we're here to help the parents who currently have autism funding and have questions be able to relate to what they currently have now to what they'll have access to in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
So right now, under the current model with autism funding, you either get $6,000 if you're over 6 years old, or you have access to $22,000 if you're under 6 years old. So that model, come March 2027, is gone.
And to preface and to add to that, sorry, the way that the therapy funds are, or the funds are distributed, is it's directly tagged to the child, and it is directly paid to service providers. And what that has done historically is provided service providers like ourselves with the security that the funds are there.
Right.
We don't have to become bill collectors. We don't have to charge somebody's credit card. We don't have to hope that people can pay month after month. We create a plan with families, and we have that as service providers, that sense of security that we can provide these services and pay the payroll to the specialists, and be able to run a high quality program for these kiddos. So,
and that's been really, as a parent perspective, has been nice, because we as parent, all we have to do is sign the RTP and you do the rest. And so it's like, okay, I know my child has access to this money. They're receiving their therapies. It's being paid for, and they don't have to think twice about it.
And it's tagged directly to your kiddo. So it's almost like, it's not that your kiddo owns the money. It's obviously a government funded program, but it's attached to the kiddo.
Yeah.
Where now what you're going to find out here when we talk about program number 2, the supplement, is it's now given to the parents, which is great, because the government is identifying that these parents do have extra needs financially when raising a kiddo with a diverse ability. So we understand that. But then it's also loose in that it's not tagged to the child. It's given to the parent as an extra supplement. And that may mean that can or cannot be used for therapy. But we're not going to get too much into that right now. We're going to start now. We'll start with number 1, benefits. Then we'll go to number 2, supplement. Then we'll go to number 3, the community centers. And just know that for the purpose of this podcast, we're giving you the bare minimum, so you just know what you're eligible for. We have tools for you to figure it out afterwards. And also, this is going to be a YouTube series where you are going to be able to then go a little bit deeper on each program. So if you recognize that you're one of the 30% that will qualify for the benefits, you will have a following video you can watch more in depth on how to get that. So
there's a lot of information. So if you feel like we're not giving you all the information, stay tuned, because we will be breaking each tier into, or each option into, its own podcast, because there's a lot to talk about.
Let's get into it. We're going to talk about the benefits.
So first, we're going to talk about the disability benefit.
Yeah.
So what this is a two-tiered benefit for children who maybe have need the most supports. So they're the ones that will qualify for this benefit. The 2 tiers is either $6,500 for tier 1 or $17,000 for tier 2. So with that's gonna be based all on assessed needs.
Right.
And this is where things get a little tricky, if you will, because who decides that? Who decides what your child is, should be, which tier should they be in?
And so I think that what they're saying right now is they are going to have, like, they should be able to, MCFD, because we're in correlation to AFU, if your child already has AFU, then the ministry, the MCFD social workers already have your autism diagnosis. And your autism diagnosis should already identify what the government is asking for as levels. Now, we don't use levels inclusively here, but the government is stating level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 3 is the highest supports needed ASD diagnosis. A lot of diagnoses are not coming with the levels on the report. Right. So this is causing a little bit of confusion for you families. So if you don't see it, have no fear. The social worker has the ability to identify what needs your child is in based on your current autism assessment. Now, I would assume if your autism assessment is very old, this is where their news, they have new news that they came out saying, we will have assessors if your stuff is too outdated. But for the most part, an ASD diagnosis from a few years ago or whatnot will provide enough information for them to be able to go off of.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so there are a few things that we do know about who will I use guarantee very loosely.
Direct
But
pathway they call.
yeah, there's the two pathways.
Yeah.
And so the direct pathway would be for in the autism world, if you have any level of autism plus any level of intellectual disability, that is your guaranteed way into receiving this benefit.
So again, to clarify, a level 1 or a level 2, so medium or low supports needed, attached with an intellectual disability. If you do not have the intellectual disability attached to a level 1 and 2, we believe at this time the only information we have is the only way you're going to get the benefit if you're a level 1 or 2 without intellectual disability is if your child also has severe self-harming SIB, self-injurious behaviors, or others, and is part of a program that is in place with the 2 SIB clinics in BC.
Right. So some of this is assumptions on our end because the government hasn't released this information yet. So we are assuming that this is kind of where some children will be put in develop based off of their tiers.
And to add a couple more nuggets here, as we mentioned before, 30% of kiddos is going to be able to get this. So this is what we do know. Around 30%, they say, estimated, of current families with AFU. They also alluded to if you currently have at-home funding for the school-age extended therapies, that's if you have that extra $5,000 or so per year for OT and extra $5,000 or so for SLP, that kind of already indicates that you are of the level that will qualify for the benefit. So if you already have that service to you, you should qualify for that benefit. So that might be a little comforting for those families hearing this. And also just to give a little bit of context for a lot of families that are confused on how do I know if my child has an intellectual disability?
Yeah.
It's typically not diagnosed until school age. So if your child was diagnosed earlier than age 5 or 6, the likelihood of them having intellectual disability diagnosed on an assessment is lower. Could happen. Not saying it didn't, but usually that would be generalized as like a global developmental delay,
Right.
which is an umbrella statement because an intellectual disability is a lower IQ across the board, generally identified once they're in school.
Right.
So usually a psych ed assessment. But again, if you feel like your child should meet that criteria for that intellectual disability, we encourage you to reach out to your social worker because maybe they can get that assessment done by their new assessors.
Yes, and that's the pathway number 2.
Yeah.
Is that if you feel that your child is eligible for this benefit, that you reach out to your social worker or MCFD worker and you can create a case to kind of show them that, yes, my child is deserving of this benefit.
Yeah, and to conclude the section on the benefits, we do have a tool that you can quickly go to and get some results on what program you're qualified for. So maybe take that quick quiz. It might help you out a little bit to be able to decipher if it's worth contacting your social worker and trying to push for if you don't think it's something that you're getting, because again, maybe 30% of kiddos is going to get that. So
Right.
yeah. Okay, and that concludes the benefits portion. But also what I forgot to say is I don't want to say it's safe to assume, but again, at the time of this filming in February 2026, we don't have any answers. I would think that the tier 1, which is $6,500 a month, is for the level 1 and level 2 kiddos with intellectual disability, whereas then the $17,000 is going to be for those level 3 autism diagnosis, and of course for anyone with an overall developmental delay and intellectual disability, that like Down syndrome, FASD, and things like that. Again, these are assumptions, but maybe they may help set expectations for those families. These families might be getting $6,500. It's almost equivalent to what you're getting now, unless your child is under the age of 6, which is a great loss from $22,000 to $6,500. So, okay, number 2, we're going to talk about the supplement. I want to preface this with, for the AFU families watching, your AFU is going to end March 31st, 2027. There is a 4-month gap in that this supplement does not start until July 2027. They've hinted that the date of payment in July will be in alignment to your child tax benefits right now, which would be safe to assume the 20th of every month, except in December, it's the 13th. And so it's safe to assume that that's when you would get the supplement. So again, there's a 4-month gap. So what the government is doing is they're framing this supplement in a few ways. They're framing it in, again, that 85% of families will get this supplement. You can use this supplement that gets deposited into your bank account to help with your overall cost of living, because it's expensive to have a kiddo on the spectrum. They have sometimes specific sensory clothing, specific safe foods. Parents are running around exhausted, needing coffee and gas to take your kiddos to appointments. There's a lot to it. Also, a lot of parents can't work. So they're using the supplement as an income supplement to which parents can make a decision. So if you are 70% of the families that won't get the benefit, 85% that will get the supplement, you have a choice on how you want to use that, which means you don't have direct money to a therapist or to therapy. It is your now responsibility to take that money, make a decision on what's in the best interest for your family with no judgments from I would assume almost anyone, and decide what is best for your child and yourself in that scenario. So take it away with the supplements.
So the supplement is going to be up to $6,000 a year. Now, this is based off of your household income. It's also based if your child has been approved for a disability tax credit. So we will touch on the disability tax credit in a bit, but what the disability tax credit is a federal level credit that the CRA will approve you for based off of your child's needs and how much they need supports. And so what the government of BC is doing is kind of piggybacking off of the supplement. If they've been approved for the disability tax credit, then you will be receiving the supplement. The parents will be receiving that monthly amount, and that amount is based off of your household income. So I believe the lowest threshold is if you take in a household income of under $50,000
that's right.
a year.
That's right.
Then you will receive the maximum amount, which would be the $500 a month or $6,000 a year.
That's right.
From there, we have kind of like a sliding scale.
Correct.
The more you make, the less you'll receive. To a maximum of, I want to say, 200,000.
And it's 200,000 net income, so after taxes.
Right.
And that is per child.
Right.
So if you have 2 or 3 children, that can go up to $350,000 a year that you make before you'll see that completely edges out of what you can qualify for.
So, but that's for every child that has the disability tax credit.
Correct. Yeah. And to be clear, this is the only one of the 3 programs where your income matters. The other 2, it doesn't matter.
Right.
This one is an income tested. And yeah.
So as you mentioned, this will start to be implemented July of 2027.
Right.
So there will be that gap period between March of 2027 where AFU ends and July 2027 where you'll start to receive that supplement amount.
And as a parent and a service provider, a little tip I'm just going to add at this junction. If you think that you are going to use your supplement funds for therapy, or if you don't, please open the door to a conversation with your current service providers. Your current service providers are begging to understand if they're going to stay open, and they want to understand what you guys need in order to make that decision.
Yeah.
We as service providers are probably going to be approached in the coming months to see if we want to work with the CDC. We're going to have a lot of questions that we need answered in terms of lease, supplies, staffing, all of the things that your contribution and ability to be transparent is going to be really meaningful here. So as a parent, I would say making sure that your service providers are there if that's important to you, have that conversation, please. Because I know we've already started conversations with parents that are like, I will be putting this money towards therapy. Can you please promise me that my my BI is still going to be
Yeah.
available. And while we
Well,
can't make any promises right now.
when you have these kids who have created these amazing, beautiful relationships
Yeah.
with their BIs who they see multiple times a week,
Or their counselors.
or their counselors,
OTs,
or
SLPs.
exactly,
Yeah.
they have these parents have worked so hard to create these teams,
Well, the kids have worked so
and
hard
the kids have
with
created
trusting
these amazing
a
relationships.
stranger. Yeah. Oy.
And next thing you know, they may not be able to continue on. And it's heartbreaking. It truly is heartbreaking. And this is a little off topic, but I think it's so relevant in the sense, like a parent that I was talking with a couple days ago, he's new to this autism world.
Yeah.
And he was, thinking, okay, I know my child's under 6. I'm going to get 22,000. Let's get him in SLP. Let's get him in OT. Let's do BIs, behavioral consulting, RDI. I want everything. He was so excited to get his child involved in all these things. And I was so excited for him. And then I was like, have you heard about the funding changes implementing next year?
Yeah, like this is a good.
And he heard a little bit, not too sure how it was going to affect him.
Yeah.
Once I sat down with him and explained it to him, his child, his 4-year-old, who was just on the Sunny Hill wait list for the last 2.5 years.
Oy.
2.5 years to get this diagnosis. He's going to get 1 year of funding. And next March, nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sad world, guys, and I want to preface this with you have to jump on it now. As Angela mentioned, the only way to be eligible for this supplement is if you have a DTC approval. Currently, the disability tax credit through the CRA is a 16-week wait time. That's 4 months, guys. And that is going to only go slower and take longer because a lot of applications are going to come in from BC parents. And on top of that, if you are denied, which is common to be denied sometimes, not to scare you, but it can happen, then an appeal can take greater than 6 months, which means if you don't hop on it now, it can be an even greater gap than the 4-month gap between March and July. So I could say for myself as a service provider, my advice for parents would be, step 1, understand how much you're going to get for a supplement if you do qualify for the supplement. We have a supplements calculator, so you can look below in the comments and there'll be a link for you to go and calculate how much estimated you could get from the supplement. So I would first check what I can get from the supplement. Second, talk to family and friends and try and understand the best use of those funds. And if it is through your therapist, I would now have to figure out, how can I figure out that 4-month gap? Because my service providers are going to, my service providers have a cost to the service, and there's 4 months where AFU ends, and we have to wait before we get that supplement. So start saving now, because 4 months of service and there's 12 months left.
So
you got to
no
save a third of that
interruption.
every single month from now until then. The great news, if you think about it, is if you haven't applied for DTC yet, if you're one of those families that haven't, and you do, there is a very big opportunity for back pay, which absolutely can help with interventions, more counseling for the teens that need some mental health supports.
Yes. I have not met a family who has applied for the disability tax credit, received the approval, and who have received the back pay and have not raved about the importance of getting it.
Absolutely.
Because personally myself, going through that journey, it was, a little tough to figure out all the paperwork. I did it myself.
Yeah.
Now I know that there's people out there that are professionals that can help you. Which is amazing.
And that's really important right now in this time, because if you do it on your own, which you could be successful doing it on your own. Many parents have. But in the event that it wasn't completed correctly or thoroughly to what the government is looking for, and you do get denied, that appeal can take so much time. So again, you have that bigger gap. So jumping on working with professionals right now is
Yeah.
really important if you can. We do have those options available for you as well. Again, there'll be a link down below if you need help with your DTC. But with that said, jump on it now, make a plan now, and the gold to that, if any good news out of all of this, staying neutral, would be that if you qualify for the disability tax credit and benefit, you should get a back pay up to 3 years at first. And then you can ask for up to 10, depending on the age of your child and how long they've been affected for. It is not diagnosis dependent. It is very much on how you articulate your child's needs. So it's very important that you study and learn this and put in for it right away. That way, if you get that back pay, and there is a gap because the supplement doesn't start until July, you at least have that DTC back pay to really help your family continue those therapies with those specialists. Yeah. Because I'm not speaking for Awesome Match's behalf as a service provider, although I could to some degree. I'm speaking on behalf of the other autism service providers in BC, which I am sure they have questions on, can they afford their mortgage, their bills, and their lifestyle if X amount of families leave and X amount of families can't afford therapy and have to pause for this 4-month pause and gap. Yeah. So please think about that.
It's good that you bring up the service provider point of view, because I think a lot of parents, rightfully so, are so focused on how am I affected by this?
100%.
And not really realizing, what does this mean for our service providers? Will our service providers still be there next year? Mm-hmm. And as a parent, that's terrifying, because you assume, yes, of course, my child's, SLP and their OT and their BIs will all be there. But will they?
It really depends. Yeah.
It's going to be a really interesting time. And so having that open, dynamic conversation with your service providers is going to be incredibly helpful for your service providers. And just kind of to get an idea for you so that you can prepare, because maybe things will be changing, and it's best for you to be prepared now so that when March 2027 comes, you feel a little more at ease with what your plan moving forward is.
Yeah. Quick nugget. Anxiety is fear of the future, really. Anxiety is a lot of things, but in its simplest form is anxiety for the future. So we don't have to have anxiety if we have predictability, and we can have predictability by you being here and listening to this and putting into action your stuff. But jump on it as soon as you are watching this video. Please, with all my might, I beg of you to jump on it, because if you wait until like closer to 2027 or in 2027, there's such a big gap. And whether or not you decide to continue with your current therapies that you have, or you decide to utilize that supplement for your own needs, it's going to be very important. The government has not disclosed if there's back pay to that supplement. So let's say you didn't apply for DTC until January 2027, let's pretend, and you don't get accepted until well after.
Right.
Because maybe you had to go through the appeals. Maybe you don't get accepted till like December 2027. I'm not sure, there's nowhere right now that gives us clarity on, does that mean you're going to get the supplement back paid to July? Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think they've answered that question. That's a good point.
Yeah. So with that said, guys, again, just to preface, we are filming this in February 2026. We're jumping on it to help families in this moment that don't know what's happening. We're going to give updates as we can, and there can be changes between now.
I'm sure there's going to be plenty of changes.
We're just rolling off of what we know now, guys.
What we know is that families have been coming to us a lot asking, what is going to happen? What are we going to do? How do I navigate this?
Yeah.
And so we're learning a lot, as you guys are learning as well. The information you guys have is the same information we have, and we're just trying to be able to provide it to you in a way that is digestible, because when you're handed a 48-page PDF and it's like, good luck, it's a little hard to kind of take that and absorb it. So
I agree. Anything else about the supplement before we conclude this part?
I think you touched on it already, but I'll just repeat it again, that this supplement amount will be automatically deposited into your bank account, just like the disability or the child tax benefit. And so this amount of money will be at your discretion to be used however you see fit. Ideally, we would love it for parents to continue using that towards their child. But rightfully so, I understand if you're in a position to pay your bills or have your child see an occupational therapist, you're going to keep the lights on and the heat on. So
Yeah. It's a weird system because
it is.
the success depends on two things. The service provider's ability to take the risk and stay open, and your family's response, or your family's ability, especially for the low income families who are getting the maximum of these supplements, to have, for these low income families, the disposable income to invest in intervention. And we've cried many tears, guys. So if you think that we're sitting here all rainbows and smiling, we're crying tears for the families that make a medium amount of income that's going to lose a significant amount. A lot of those families, they say, the average BC family has an 85,000 income per year. The average that equals about $300 a month in therapy. So you are going to lose some if you are that medium. But they're also saying over 47 or 48% of these families they anticipate are going to get the full amount. So, guys, it comes across as scary, but you're in control and do your best to prepare. But if you are a low income family hearing this and you are getting that max amount, we understand also as parents and service providers that your disposable income is yours, and there's no judgment on where you invest that. But as service providers who has seen the success of hundreds of kids going through intervention, it's a dark phase for us a little bit to be able to articulate that. So I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to jump to number 3. Okay, so we're going to talk about number 3, the community centers. 100% of the kids are eligible for this. Woo! All right, we're really excited about this one, guys. Unfortunately, we're really excited with little questions answered. Math is not mathin' for me. Map is not mapping for me. So we got the math ain't mathin'. Map ain't mapping.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions here that we cannot answer because the government has not given us answers.
I'm going to do my quick dyslexic brain dump here. And I could be wrong. Again, my numbers, this may not be factual. This is what we have to date, again, in February 2026. What I understand is $80 million over the next 3 years is going to be put back into these child development centers or the already established high quality service providers that have been in partnership with the government for this initiative. So $80 million over the next 3 years. You're going to divide that by 3 years. I think it's something like 26 million. We could do the calculation if we need to, but something like 26 million per year. And that is going to serve the population that they are saying is 33,000 kiddos that are eligible for the 100% of kiddos eligible for the community-based services. So currently 27,000 families have AFU. They believe there is another 6,500 kiddos that do not qualify for any kind of equivalent program because they're underdiagnosed or they have a separate diagnosis than autism.
Right.
They are saying 33,000 kids will qualify to use this 100% coverage of community center. 80 million over 3 years, 26 million a year, 33,000 kids. I think it's something like 800 and something per kid per year. I think. So to me, the math isn't mathing. Now, my math could be wrong. We could take out a calculator, but we're just going to say the math ain't mathing, but let's go to the map ain't mapping.
The map ain't mapping. So what we know, if you pull up the child development centers across the Lower Mainland, Fraser Valley, as most people who live in BC are in that general area.
We'll put a link below.
It's showing that, if you live in Vancouver, Victoria, you're going to have ample, access to these centers. These child development centers will be, I think you said, like within 20 minutes, But the further east you go, and so for us here in Chilliwack, we do have a child development center. Yay us.
And they are cool. Like we hear a lot of families that have great success there. They're
huge success. They're wonderful.
Yep.
Nothing but good things to say.
Yeah.
The downside is they have to service everyone between the Maple Ridge Child Development Center all the way to the Kelowna Child Development Center.
So
that's a the map.
Okay, we're going to preface this with, they are saying that this is not the final map. They will add as they go, but this is what we have access to today in February 2026. So guys, that means if you know the map of the Lower Mainland and all that kind of good stuff, we're looking at Mission, nothing. Abbotsford,
Nothing.
Langley, Boston Bar,
Hope,
Merritt, Agassiz.
Like, that's a large area.
That's a big circle. That's like what, 300 kilometers? I don't even know. Map ain't mapping, guys. I mean, the Fraser Valley Child Development Center is so incredibly. We've heard so many good things about them. We have heard about wait times, and of course, some kids don't qualify because they now have funding. So, there has been some things, but that's understandable. They work with what they work with, but we do understand their structure and their peoples are good quality. So I'm happy they got that, and I'm happy they're here to help. I just don't. I hope.
Yeah.
I hope that there is more of these centers that are going to pop up on the map, because if not, I'm not sure how this beautiful building and beautiful humans within are going to be able to, with a 40% increase in current funding, be able to serve from Maple Ridge to Kamloops and Kelowna.
Well, and they, from the town halls that we watched, they really were pushing that, the kids that are losing the funding, the ollies, if you will, they are going to be top priority for all these free government community-based services.
What they're also saying, though, just as a preface, if you are one of those families that only qualify for 2 out of these 3 programs or 1 out of these 3 programs, I think that's how they're prioritizing, or at least that's how they're framing it right now when they talk about the priority order of how they're going to intake. It's going to be the kiddos who have lost services or lost access to services, which would tell me parents don't approve for the supplement. So parents aren't part of the 85%. And kiddos aren't part of the 30% benefit. So I would assume if you only qualify as that 15% that will only get community-based services, it sounds like they're going to be prioritized.
I hope.
And then from there, the families who get a lower amount will probably be prioritized.
Again, this is we got
a lot of questions.
But
again, we understand there's nowhere way of them knowing right now either. We gotta roll with it with them.
What we've been told is that they're going to be rolling. This is a 3-year rollout.
Yeah.
So there will be phases. I think the first phase is looking at early interventions for younger kids, and then it's mental health phase, behavioral.
I think they said in summer of 2027, I believe, or something like that. It's behavioral support, mental health supports. Mm-hmm. And then in 2028, it says other program. So hearing that again, there's not any clarity as of today in February 2026. But what I hear from that is those kiddos that are not in the early intervention program. So your kiddo is school aged.
Right.
If you need OT or SLP, I would assume that falls under other programming because it doesn't fall under mental health or behavioral support.
Right.
So now I'm assuming that's part of the 2028 timeline for SLP.
That gives them a couple of years to find all these magical new SLPs. Sorry, stay neutral.
As service providers, we have definitely struggled to find that over the years, and with very active postings and very attractive wage offers and bonuses to sign on. So we have had huge challenges with getting SLP and OT in person.
Yeah.
In person, virtually yes, but in person no. And Chilliwack in itself has a massive wait time. I'm not sure of other communities, to be honest with you, but I hope if anyone can accomplish this, it's the Fraser Valley Child Development Center. So we are sending you our love.
Yeah.
Fraser Valley Child Development Center. We are beside you, and
so with the community-based services, what we know is that they are free.
Yeah.
It sounds like they may be priority-based based off of what other supports you may have.
It does say you'll have custom navigational support, so parents will be navigated. However, what it doesn't clarify is what is the ratio of children that'll be put in ratioed group programs.
Right.
I think a lot of these kids are going to be shoved in group therapy.
Yes. And as we know, that group therapy is not gold standard for.
No, but it is what a lot of kids over 6 have to go through right now because funding is so low. So guys, while if you're here and you don't have AFU and you're not struggling navigating that system, as a service provider and a parent, I can say right now you have an average of $500 a month through AFU. And as a service provider, that is really difficult to have a high quality program for a kid over the age of 6, because especially for behavioral supports, because you need a consultant and an interventionist for it to be high quality. Consultants come at a cost, so do interventionists. And it's a hard dynamic to give a tailored one-on-one high quality program to a child over 6 with $500 a month.
Right. So we're looking at more groups.
Yeah.
We're looking at probable wait lists.
If the math was mathing, and my math is mathing, right? And we're thinking 800 per kid per year in these community centers, of course they're not going to take 800 to a kid, or they're going to be like, this kiddo needs 10,000 or 20,000 per year, and this kiddo needs 100. So obviously it's not going to be tagged to that. I'm just having a hard time accepting that 33,000 children will have access to this for free, and it actually being navigational services for the parents. Your teen is going through a hard time with anxiety and depression, and
the mental health
mental health. Like, what are those counseling opportunities going to look like? What is the mentorship going to look like? I personally, as a service provider who has struggled to figure that out for the families within a tight budget, I wish them success. That's it. That is all. Do you have anything to add to the community centers?
I'm cautiously optimistic.
So if you're listening to this and you're trying to see which one of the 3 programs you qualify for, again, 30% qualify for the benefit, about 85% for the supplement, 100% for these community centers. I beg of you to jump on these. We're going to have more videos coming at you dissecting each program individually, so you can dive a little bit deeper on which program you qualify for to understand it. Don't want to take up your time today. There's tools below to help you understand what is your supplement amount that you can expect by estimate, as well as what program you may qualify for. Please utilize those tools. Keep in touch. Keep telling us what you need.
Yes.
And we're going to keep showing up and building something for you guys. We're not going to leave in 2027. We're going to be here for you guys, figuring it out alongside you. So stay awesome.